So the UFC right now is on a great path towards the future with its new and up-and-coming prospects. And with Dana White finally linking the end of the Apex, I think the future is now for the UFC. So during my long shower, I got to thinking about what will the UFC look like in 5 years? What new champions will we have? What new top contenders will we have? What guys from the regional scene will make a name for themselves? I thought of it all for this video, but I only focused on one thing, and that is the champions. Who in 5 years has the best chance of becoming UFC champion in their respective weight class? So let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into who will be UFC champion by the year 2029. So next to me is a black box. As you can probably tell, I'm going to unveil every single future champion one by one by weight class. It's a pretty simple concept. If you don't understand, you will right now. So starting off with flyweight, who do I think will be champion by 2029? Who will be holding the current flyweight belt by that year? I do believe it will be Joshua Van. Now, if you don't know who Joshua Van is, watch his fights. He's a Muay Thai guy. I believe he's 22, 23. He's extremely young, and I think he has a good path towards the belt. Now, originally, he was supposed to fight Tatsuro Taira, who is another up-and-coming flyweight prospect, who I wouldn't mind if you put him over Joshua Van, but that fight ended up getting canceled. They rebooked the original matchups, which now Joshua Van is fighting Tagir Olimbekov. I do believe he does beat Tagir, and I think he goes on to beat other flyweights at the top as well. Again, he's very young, and I do believe he beats a lot of these older flyweights who Joshua Van will still be like, what, 26, 27 by the time he gets to the top of flyweight. They might rush him, which might be a bad deal for him, but if in 5 years from now, if I had to pick somebody to be at the top of flyweight, I think it would be Joshua Van. If he beats Tagir Olimbekov, he will be ranked at flyweight, and I think he beats a lot of the top guys there as well, as top 10 guys at flyweight. I think he beats a Kai Kara France when he's a bit older. I think he beats an older Alex Perez as well, and let's say he gets the belt before 2029, I still think he holds it for a while. I do think he will get several title defenses under his belt for himself, and I just think he overall has the talent right now. He's still very young, still has a lot of time to improve. I just think as time goes on, it only gets easier for him to get wins because a lot of these top flyweights will be aging. And we know the lower weight classes, once you get past 35, it pretty much goes downhill for you. So Joshua Van has the age advantage. Again, a great Muay Thai guy. The striking is already down for him. Maybe the grappling can be something he improves on later down the line. I think he'll be a full-fledged, balanced MMA fighter by the time he hits the top of flyweight. Now let's move on to bantamweight. The current champion right now is O'Malley. I don't think O'Malley will hold the belt for 5 more years. That might be a hot take, but I can see O'Malley eventually just kind of fizzling his way out or losing to a grappler down the line. So I think by when 2029 hits, I think Peyton Talbot might be that next guy to get the belt at bantamweight. Now this one, again, Peyton Talbot right now, all these guys are going to be unproven in the UFC, and you can definitely vouch for somebody else. And I don't want to pick anybody who's on the regional scene right now. It's just too unpredictable. I want to stick within the UFC, and I think Peyton Talbot has shown the most promise right now at bantamweight. He just beat Cameron Simon not too long ago. That was a great win. Simon is not a bum at all, and he pretty much dismantled him. Right now, Peyton Talbot is 25 years old. He'll be 30 by 2029. I think by the time he hits the rankings, because bantamweight is a hard division, so they'll probably take their time with him and his progression like how they do with Paddy Pimblett. They won't give him like easy cupcake matchups, but they'll definitely give him lower ranked guys and let him work his way up the rankings. I don't see the UFC just feeding Peyton Talbot a top ranked guy anytime soon is what I'm trying to say. So I think by the time he hits the rankings, it might be a year or two from now. And honestly, as it stands right now, I do think Peyton Talbot does beat a lot of these, I would say, top ranked, but not in the rankings, like these just outside the top 15 fighters at bantamweight. I do believe he beats a majority of them right now. Like, I think Peyton Talbot beats a Victor Henry. I think he beats a Bashrat. I think he beats a Cody Stamann probably by finish. He might be able to beat a Yanez. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. But I think as time goes on, and as long as Peyton Talbot improves his game, I think by the year 2029, he's going to be dangerous and possibly even champion. Now, again, I don't fully know how good Peyton Talbot is. Beating Cameron Simon is a really good win, but bantamweight is a really hard division, and it only gets harder as you go up. Cameron Simon is ranked pretty low at bantamweight, and we see how good he is and how much of a prospect he can be. So the next fight for Peyton Talbot is only going to be harder because bantamweight is just that deep of a division. So don't get me wrong, I'm not fully sold on the talent of Peyton Talbot, but if I had to pick somebody by the year 2029, I think Peyton Talbot is the one that I am most confident in. Maybe you could go with a guy like Song Yadong, who's already in the rankings and is still young, but you just never know with these things. It's just difficult. I don't mind the Song Yadong pick if you do want to pick him to be champion in 2029. Again, it's very difficult to predict 5 years into the future with the UFC. It's just so unpredictable. But we move on to featherweight. Now, featherweight, I don't really know. It's a tough one. I picked Diego Lopez here. I'm not confident in Diego Lopez at all. I do think it's going to have to be somebody from the regional scene to make their name into the UFC and be champion by 2029. But if I had to pick somebody, I'm going to pick Diego Lopez. Again, I'm not sold on Diego Lopez being champion in 2029. He might get the belt sometime in his career. If I had to bet that Diego Lopez will be champion, I probably wouldn't take that bet. But featherweight right now is just pretty dry with young talent who I can see over a 5-year period developing their game and eventually becoming champion. There's just not too many 23, 24, 25-year-old guys who are already showing talent in the UFC. It's mainly some of these older guys and even guys like Diego Lopez who come into the UFC from the regional scene and perform well are already like 28, 29, 30 at most sometimes. Like I don't see a William Gomez being champion in 2029. I don't see a Fernando Padilla being champion in 2029. I don't see Nathaniel Wood being champion in 2029. He's too small for featherweight. Even a David Onama, I don't really see it. Like some of these prospects are like, they're just kind of too old to be champion by 2029. I mean, our best one we have in the rankings right now, I think, is Lerone Murphy, who just won this weekend, and he's 32 years old. So it's like, where do I go with this? I don't know. So the best option for me, I think, is Diego Lopez, who's only 29, which is good. But in 2029, he'll be 34. And that's kind of the age where a lot of these fighters lose their belts at these lower weight classes. It's just pretty tough to predict this. You can take somebody else. I don't care. I am definitely open to suggestions with this one, but Diego Lopez is what I have. I think he's good. I think he's talented. I think he can beat some of these other guys. I think he possibly could beat a Evloev if he was on full camp. So maybe down the line, we might see a Lopez versus Evloev rematch where Lopez is on a full camp and maybe he does beat Evloev. And obviously, you could pick Poirier to be champion in 2029. I'm not going to pick him because he's already leaked he's going to retire after 2 to 3 years, which I think is pretty stupid. So I'll take his word for it. He'll retire early in his career. So by 2029, it's going to be free game for anybody who's at the top of featherweight at that time. I think Diego Lopez will be one of those guys who's at the top at that time. But we move on to lightweight. I don't think Islam Makhachev is going to be champion by 2029. I think he'll retire early as well, if not lose his belt to Dustin Poirier. I'm kidding. I'm taking Islam in that matchup. But you know what? Maybe Poirier can have the biggest win or biggest upset in a very long time. But I'm going to take, for 2029, my future lightweight champion is going to be Chase Hooper. Now, hear me out. Lightweight Chase Hooper might be different gravy. I'm just kidding. I think it might be Arman Tsarukyan. Now, I think Arman Tsarukyan is a pretty simple pick here. He gave Islam probably his toughest fight when he was only like 22. He's already, top 3 at lightweight right now, only 27. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory to think Tsarukyan can be champion in 2029. He'll be 32, 33 by that time. I think he'll already be champion and already have a few title defenses underneath of himself. Again, Tsarukyan probably is a really simple pick, but I think it makes the most sense logically 5 years from now. Now, maybe Tsarukyan can lose to an up-and-coming prospect. Maybe Paddy Pimblett can take that belt away from Tsarukyan. Again, I'm kidding. I'm just making jokes here. But you never know. Lightweight is a pretty, I would say, evolved, not really recently, because we have Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira, who are like 34, 35, still fighting at the top of lightweight. So it's still a pretty stagnant division. But I think once those guys retire, once that era of lightweight is gone, once the Oliveiras, the Gaethjes, the Poiriers, and McGregors, all those guys are pretty much retired and gone from the UFC, I think within 5 years that's possible. It gets pretty unpredictable who will be the champion by 2029. And I think Tsarukyan will probably be the only guy from this current era, whatever era we're in, to be the last one standing. And he'll probably be the most improved by then, and he'll probably be champion. This might be a cop-out pick. I don't know. Tell me your opinion in the comment section down below. Now, moving on to welterweight, I do have Michael Morales. Now, I'm not really truly sold on Michael Morales just yet. He's had some performances where I'm like, I don't know, man. He might not be that good at the top of welterweight, but again, it's the age thing that I'm coming back to. The kid's only 24 years old, and he's already near the rankings at welterweight. He's shown us talent, and I think by 2029, he'll improve enough to maybe he might be champion by that time. Maybe you could take Ian Gary to be champion by 2029. I don't know. I think if Ian Gary, even if he does become champion, I don't think he holds the belt for too long. I think he might be low-key chinny, and I think somebody like JDM will expose that. But Michael Morales has shown us flashes of his talent. I think he can improve as time goes on. Welterweight gets a bit tricky because some of these older guys can still be good at an old age at welterweight. So maybe we might see a guy who's like 36, 37 be champion in 2029. I'm just not going to predict that because that's just fucking weird. But Michael Morales has already beaten some good names. He's beaten a Jake Matthews. He's beaten a Max Griffin. I think he beat Trevin Giles as well. He's already beaten some good names. So like he can definitely improve on that and beat some top welterweights maybe in the next couple years. Again, I'm not fully sold on him. He could definitely lose down the line to, I think, a really good striker. But if he can stay on this current trajectory, on this same pace, I think by 2029, he has a really damn good shot of being champion by then. Who knows? Again, this is unpredictable. Now, moving on to middleweight. Now, I'm going to show you who the guy is. It's CLD, but hold on. Middleweight right now is one of the most, like, I think middleweight and up is going to be the most unpredictable because you can have guys who are like 38, 40 even, getting their championship belt for the first time. I mean, look at light heavyweight with Glover Teixeira. He was like 40, what, 41, 42 when he won the light heavyweight belt. Right now, Alex Pereira's like 37, going to be 38. He just won the belt like this year. So it's like, how do you predict this stuff? So if old guys can win the belt, like, who do I think can win the belt at middleweight? I don't know. So I'm taking a young guy in CLD. He's already lost in the UFC. I know he lost to Armin Petrosyan, which Petrosyan is no slouch for your UFC debut. That's a tough matchup. But CLD has dynamic striking. He had a good resume in his regional scene. He's a good fighter. I love his elbows in the clinch. I love his elbows in general. I love his striking style. It's very unique. I think he is a really good fighter. And I think by 2029, he might be the one holding the belt by then. Right now, he's 28, so he might be 33, 34 by then. Again, he has time to improve. I think around the age of 31 is where most fighters hit their prime. Age 30 to 31 is like, I think the prime, the pinnacle of a UFC fighter's career. And I think after that, it's just about maintaining your skill from when you were in your prime. And then once you get into the higher weight classes, all the talent there is just not the best. Middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight are just really small divisions in terms of their roster size. Obviously not in terms of their actual physical size because they're huge human beings, but I do believe there's only like 30, 25 signed fighters at light heavyweight right now. It's a very small division in terms of fighters. So I don't know. At middleweight, there's more obviously, but I think by the time CLD fights a better contender in 2026, 2027. I think he'll be in the rankings by then, and then it might just be a matter of time before he gets that championship belt. There are better prospects you could pick for middleweight. I don't mind. You might pick an older guy as well. I mean, who knows? Maybe Adesanya might be 40 years old, still doing the damn thing at middleweight. I don't know. I'm not going to make that bet. I think he'll lose by the time he's 40 and not be champion, but, you know, I might be an idiot for that. But I went through the whole middleweight roster, and I basically picked CLD by process of elimination. I think by the year 2029, he has the best chance of being that one person or one fighter to hold up that middleweight belt. Moving on to light heavyweight, which I think is even worse than middleweight. It's super unpredictable. I'm picking Omar Sy. Now, he just fought this Saturday. He beat Toko Tokos. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's a grappler mainly. He's French. He's young as well. He's 28 years old, 10-0, undefeated. Now, again, I'm kind of reaching for straws here. If you don't think that this guy becomes champion in 2029, it's totally valid. It's just hard to predict 5 years in the future from now. The UFC is just one of the most evolving sports that we have in terms of new talent coming in and old talent leaving. It's just really hard to predict who's going to leave when. And the fact that fighters get better or they get worse or they have some random drop-offs, like it's just Like, you couldn't predict Tony Ferguson to drop off the way he did. Like, I don't believe anybody was predicting that Tony Ferguson would go on a massive losing streak before he fought Justin Gaethje. You just don't know these things about fighters. But Omar Sy, I think grappling goes a long way at light heavyweight. A lot of these guys just don't know how to defend takedowns. They're just bigger people. There's not much skill. And when I watch Omar Sy, he has grappling skill, and he at least can survive on the feet. Now, do I think his striking is elite? I don't know yet. We have to see more of his striking. Maybe as time goes on, we'll see how that develops for him. But on the ground, I think he's a bit different gravy. Kind of similar to a Jailton Almeida, but maybe not as big as Jailton. I don't know. It's just kind of hard to pick anybody in the next 5 years. Like Alex Pereira is 37. In 5 years, he'll be 40-something. I don't think Pereira will still be champion when he's 40-plus years old. Yuri Prohaska is already 31. He'll be 36. So it is possible for maybe Yuri to have that belt by 2029. Magomed Ankalaev is also getting up there in age. Jamal Hill's 30-plus years old. Jan Blachowicz is already, I believe, 40. Rakic is 30-plus. 30-plus, Roundtree is 30-plus. Like, everybody right now at the top of light heavyweight is 30-plus years old. And in 5 years, it's possible. Like, it's definitely possible. These old guys can still get wins and still be champion at light heavyweight. We saw Glover Teixeira do it, like I mentioned before. But I want to be as realistic as possible, and I want to be hopeful that the light heavyweight division will somehow get better and have better young talent in the future. And I think Omar Sy is the most recent one as of right now. And he's pretty decent, man. He's pretty good. Like, you could put Ulberg in there, but he'll be 38 by 2029. So it's like, I don't know. Again, hard to predict these things, but Omar Sy, I'm taking him by 2029. He might get fraud checked. It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because it feels like a lot of these top prospects at light heavyweight and heavyweight get fraud checked pretty soon into their UFC careers. But I'm going to put at least some level of faith into Omar Sy. Now, moving on to the last one, heavyweight. This one, I think, is still pretty simple. I think it will be Tom Aspinall will be the champion by 2029. He's 31. He'll be 36 by that time. I think that's still a good age to be champion at heavyweight. I don't think age really matters too much at heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Like, age matters in bantamweight. Age matters in featherweight, flyweight, lightweight to some extent, even welterweight to some extent. But once you get to heavyweight, man, just take the paper ball called age and throw it in the garbage can. It just doesn't matter. Tom Aspinall right now, I believe, is the most talented fighter in the UFC right now. I think he would beat John Jones. Now, John Jones is obviously pretty old, and he's planning on retiring pretty soon. So if John Jones doesn't fight Tom Aspinall, then who beats Tom Aspinall? If it's not John Jones versus Aspinall, who beats Aspinall? Cyril Gane don't want it. He's doing a movie in France. Cyril Gane, bye-bye. He doesn't care about being a champion. So Cyril Gane, you ain't doing it. We've had like 3 different heavyweight prospects come into the UFC this past year. They've all lost at some point. Rebellis is Spain. He just lost. There's nobody at heavyweight, I don't think. Curtis Blades is probably the best one right now, and we'll see if he beats him or not. If not Curtis Blades, I don't see anybody beating him. It feels like these prospects at heavyweight just don't have anything. Like, we don't have any good prospects there, and every time we get a new one, they suck. So it's like, who beats Tom Aspinall besides John Jones or Curtis Blades? Like, that's it. And like, Curtis Blades, I feel like is a stretch a little bit. John Jones, I think Tom Aspinall smokes him, but he has the best chance. So it's like, again, who beats Tom Aspinall? So maybe in 5 years, we have some unnamed regional guy to come in here and he's really good. Maybe he beats Tom Aspinall. But, you know, am I going to bet on that? No, I think Tom Aspinall is a generational heavyweight prospect, and it might take 10, 20 years or somebody from light heavyweight to move up to contest him or to be that next guy that is similar to Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is my pick to be champion in 2029. So there you guys have it. That is my full predictions for in 5 years who will be champion in every single weight class. If you enjoyed this video, if you hated this video, I don't care what you think. Leave a comment down below. Tell me your opinion. I read almost every single comment. I appreciate you guys who show me some support, but I'm out of here. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications. Peace.